Personally, I think every time is a perfect time to start a business. There's no bad times. If you do the work, if you do the preparation, you'll know when it's time. And it doesn't mean that it won't be a little bit scary, but you'll know. And you don't have to quit the daytime job if you don't feel all that comfortable, and you can give it a run at night. But whatever works for you now with the internet, you've got all the choices in the world, and you can just go out there and do your own thing and set up a business part-time. The passion I've always had for business and being an entrepreneur that transfers into the Mavs, I've always been passionate. Some people thought, it's more OCD than anything else, which I think is a great trait for an entrepreneur. When I mentioned the stamp business, I would stay up till 3, 4 in the morning, even though I had to get up and go to school, and read Lynn's Stamp News and Scott's Stamp Journals and have them all memorized and use that to give myself an edge. Even when I was in college, I'd be in the library reading business books and just looking for business biographies and just reading all I could about business. When I had Micro Solutions and I started with no money, I'd pull all-nighters in front of borrowed computers, teaching myself software and how to program. Just to go after it. I mean, the thing about being an entrepreneur is it's just all to you. A lot of people like to make excuses. I don't have connections, I don't have money, I don't have this, but if you find something that you like to do or love to do, be great at it and see if you can turn it into a business. In worst case, you're going to have fun doing what it is you love to do. In best case, you can turn it into a business. I'm just not big on excuses. I just think if everybody has that opportunity to go for it, they just got to do it. One of the things that companies do or startups do, they come up with an idea, they'll Google it, and if they don't see it in the first 2 pages, they think it's original. You got to go back, right? Because over the past 15 years, there's so many different businesses that have tried and failed. You have to go back and find those and learn from those. So you've got to understand all the implications, and you have to learn from history. And so the best advice I can give you on a video before talking to you or emailing with you is that you've got to find out the history of people who have tried your idea, because there's a 99.99999% chance that your idea has been tried before. That's not a good reason not to start it, because you might be able to outperform them, but you better learn from the history of your idea, because you know what they say about people who don't learn from history. I've always just really enjoyed just the competition of business. I think, in the sports business, I'll talk to our players and it'll be like, well, you guys compete for 48 minutes and you practice a couple hours and you work on your game independently a couple hours. But the ultimate sport is business, because you have to compete with everybody, and you have to do it 24/7 by 365 days a year forever. And there's always somebody out there trying to kick your butt. There's always somebody who looks at your business and says, I can do that better, I have a better idea. And you have to compete with that person. And all the while you have to make your customers happy, your employees happy. It's the competitive side of me that, in any entrepreneur, that I think that has to drive you, and I think that carries over into the Mavericks. I want to win, and I want to compete. 99% of small businesses you can start with next to no capital. It's more about effort. Small businesses don't fail for lack of capital. They fail for lack of brains. They fail for lack of effort. Most people just aren't willing to put in the time to work smart. I mean, they go for it in a lot of cases, but they just don't recognize how much work's involved. And if you do the preparation, if you start a business, you better know your industry and your company better than anyone in the whole wide world, because you're competing. And to think that whoever it is you're competing with is just going to let you come in and take their business, obviously that's naive. And I think most people don't recognize that. If you're going to compete with me on one of my businesses, you better realize that I'm working 24 hours a day to kick your ass. One of the big things that all startups do is they lie to themselves over and over and over. Mine's faster, mine's cheaper, mine's better, mine's this, mine's that. No, it's not. And the reason it's not is because whoever it is you're competing with, it's not like they're ignoring you. It's not like, oh my goodness, this guy just started on Shopify in the startup competition. He's doing $1 million this year. Woe is me, I might as well close up the doors. What are they doing? I'm going to copy what they're doing. And now you've got to stay ahead. And so, you've got to be very careful as an entrepreneur to be brutally honest with yourself And those are some of the things that you'll hear from me as a mentor, that know what you know what you don't know, but you've got to know your business better than anybody.
I think the most important is knowing your strengths and weaknesses and knowing what you enjoy doing. If you look at it as a job, you've already lost. It's not going to be your passion, and you're going to count the hours. If you look at it as something you love to do, and then you know what your strengths are, then you can leverage those strengths in your business and in helping others. And once you recognize your weaknesses, then you can work with people that complement you. I mean, every one of my businesses, I've had a partner who's very anal. Martin Woodall, Todd Wagner, I mean, incredibly anal people, perfectionists, because I'm a slob. I'm a big picture, think about what's around the corner, how's technology going to change things, how can I change, this industry, and making sure that there's somebody there to dot the I's, cross the T's, and keep me in the baselines. And recognizing my weaknesses is just as important as recognizing my strengths and my core competencies, and having a passion to do them.
You've got to be differentiated and unique. You've got to know what your core competency is and be great at it. I think what people fail to realize is that there's got to be a defining feature of your company, and you've got to be the best in the world at that. Whatever industry you're in, if you don't know more about it than anybody else in the world, whoever those other people are that know more are going to kick your ass.
I had a job out of college working for a bank for a short period of time, Mellon Bank, and I decided to, well, first, it might have been Inc. magazine, this is way back when, but there was an article about changing something in how you how you save Social Security from employees' paychecks. And I literally hadn't been working there for 3 weeks. And so I sent it to the CEO of Mellon Bank. Hey, I thought you might be interested in this. Literally some guy he never heard of. And I got a note back that said thank you. And I'm thinking, okay, look, my whole motive in taking a job working for somebody was to help them become more profitable. That's the way I always looked at it. And then I started a rookies club where I reached out to some executives and all the people who had started at the same time at Mellon Bank. We'd all go out and get a drink, and we'd get this executive to start. And I didn't run it through my boss or anything. And so my boss at the time calls me in and said, "You're doing this." I said, "Yeah," thinking he's going to say, "Great." He just starts screaming at me and reaming me. "How could you do this? You go everything through me. You work for me." Yeah. So I knew I wasn't destined there. And then I left, and I went down to, ended up down in Dallas, and got a job working for a company called Your Business Software. And we sold software, and I didn't know anything about software. I took one computer class at Indiana and kind of cheated to pass, but not that I condone that, but and so I had a customer, and I'd stay up all night reading. I figured, computers were new and technology was new. This technology was new, so nobody had a head start on me because it was changing so rapidly like it is today that if I just put in the time, I can learn as much as anybody else. And so I taught myself. I'd stay up late reading software manuals, taught myself different little simple programming languages, and kept on getting bigger and bigger and better and better. But it was at a retail store, and one of my responsibilities was to come in, sweep the floor, wipe down the windows, and open the store. And I had a customer who wanted me to come out there and close a deal, and it was a $15,000 deal, $1,500 commission to me. Told my boss, he said, "No, you need to be there to open the store." And I made the executive decision that I was going to go get the check, because I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the floor, and this check meant I could not use the same Holiday Inn towels with holes in them that I'd stolen, But anyway, so I went and picked up the check, thinking when I came back and gave the check to my boss, all would be forgiven, and the sales cures all. Fired me, and so those back-to-back experiences confirmed what I already knew, that I was a shitty-ass employee.
The reality is there are a lot of great products and services that are undiscovered. It's just the reality, because it's one thing to do something great. It's a whole nother thing to be able to market and sell it. Just like you went door to door, right? Somebody had to go and do the sale. I sold door to door. When you've got something and you're more of a maker or more of a creator, you've got to go find communities where people share your interests. I mean, when we started AudioNet way back when in the 90s, no one knew what streaming was. It was called netcasting. It was called a lot of broadcasting, internet broadcasting. And that was back when Prodigy was big, CompuServe was big, you know, the chat rooms were big, and Usenet was big. And so I literally would go into every forum and every grouping that I could find and say, hey, look, this is when we had 2 radio stations on. If you're from Dallas and you're interested in Texas sports, there's this thing called internet broadcasting, and you have to download all this different stuff. Well, it's analogous to today as well, where you can find communities and find ways to talk to people that have, you know, the same interests as you do. And what's even better now is it's easier to proliferate, right? There's more of a net effect that's available to you if you get enough people talking about it. Using voice is one great opportunity, you know, and I think a couple other things are going on that make voice more important as well.